Saturday by E.L. Konigsberg. Chapter 1. Mrs. Eva Maria Alinsky always gave good answers. Whenever she was asked how she had selected her team for the academic bowl, she chose one of several good answers. Most often, she said that the 4 members of her team had skills that balanced one another. That was reasonable. Sometimes she said that she knew her team would practice. That was accurate. To the district superintendent of schools, she gave a bad answer, but she did that only once, only to him, and if that answer was not good, her reason for giving it was. The fact was that Mrs. Olinsky did not know how she had chosen her team, and the further fact was that she didn't know until she did know. Of course, that is true of most things. You do not know up to and including the very last second before you do, and for Mrs. Olinsky that was not until bowl day was over, and so was the work of her 4 6th graders. They called themselves the Souls. They told Mrs. Olinsky that they were the Souls long before they were a team, but she told them that they were a team as soon as they became the Souls. Then, after a while, teacher and team agreed that they were arguing chicken or egg. Whichever way it began, chicken or egg, team or the Souls, it definitely ended with an egg. Definitely an egg. People still remark about how extraordinary it was to have 4 6th graders make it to the finals. There had been a few 7th graders scattered among the other teams, but all the rest of the middle school regional champs were 8th graders. Epiphany had never before won even the local championship, and there they were, up on stage, ready to compete for the state trophy. All 4 members of Maxwell, the other team in the final round, were in the 8th grade. Both of the Maxwell boys' voices had been deepened, and the girls displayed lacy bra straps inside their t-shirt necklines. The fact that the necklines were outsized and the 2 pairs of straps matched, they were apricot-colored, made Mrs. Olinsky believe that they were not making a fashion statement as much as they were saying something. To her 4th, 6th graders, puberty was something they could spell and define, but had yet to experience. Unlike football bowls, there had been no season tallies for the academic teams. There had been no best of 5. Each contest had been an elimination round. There were winners and there were losers. From the start, the rule was, lose 1 game and you are out. So it was on bowl day. At the start of the day, there had been 8 regional champs. Now there were 2, Epiphany and Maxwell. It was afternoon by the time they got to the last round, and Mrs. Olinsky sat shivering in a windowless room in a building big enough and official enough to have its own zip code. This was Albany, the capital of the state of New York. This was the last Saturday in May, and some robot, human or electronic, had checked the calendar instead of the weather report, and had turned on the air conditioning. Like everyone else in the audience, Mrs. Olinsky wore a short-sleeved t-shirt with her team's logo across the front. Maxwell's were navy, Epiphany's were red, and were as loud as things were permitted to get in that large, cold room. The audience had been asked not to whistle, cheer, stomp, hold up signs, wave banners, or even applaud. They were reminded that this bowl was for brains, not brawn, and decorum, something between chapel and classroom, was the order of the day. Epiphany sat on one side of a long table, Maxwell the other. At a lectern between them stood the Commissioner of Education of the state of New York. He smiled benevolently over the audience as he reached inside his inner breast pocket and withdrew a pair of reading glasses. With a flick of his wrist, he opened them and put them on. Mrs. Olinsky hugged her upper arms and wondered if maybe it was nerves and not the quartering wind blowing from ceiling vents that was causing her shivers. She watched with bated and visible breath as the commissioner placed his hand into a large clear glass bowl. His college class ring knocked bottom. Had the room been 2 degrees colder, the glass would have shattered. He withdrew a piece of paper, unfolded it, and read, "What is the meaning of the word calligraphy, and from what language does it derive?" A buzzer sounded. Mrs. Olinsky knew whose it was. She was sure of it. She leaned back and relaxed. She was not nervous. Excited? Yes. Nervous? No. The television lights glanced off Noah Gersham's glasses. He had been the first chosen.